Hey, how are you guys? Are you back for another Found Out Friday? Okay, so we've done 2 in this series, and this is the 3rd, where we are discussing your chances of having a sleep breathing disorder because you struggle with tongue posture, because you struggle with nasal breathing, because you struggle with clenching and or grinding. I'm going to cover a little bit more about that today. Because you are having some things that, you're tired, you're fatigued, you're struggling with anxiety, and you didn't know why, and you've gone to the doctor, and there's all sorts of things, but your adrenals are maxed out, and they want to put you on medicine, of course. So I'm coming in with a different facet. So if you're back, welcome back. I'm going to go a little bit further into clenching and or grinding today. We call that in the dental world bruxism, okay? So before I started taking these orofacial myofunctional therapy courses, there's something that we have finally connected, and I say we, the dental world has finally connected, and the medical world is slowly but surely coming around to knowing whether or not you're a clencher or grinder and why you're doing it, okay? If you're clenching, last time I covered, if you're clenching and or grinding, what happens is that your jaw is trying to get in the most posterior upright position to open your airway, right? So people who struggle with sleep breathing disorders, what they'll do is that they will, they'll clench or grind for a period of time, and then they hold their mouth open, and they'll breathe through their mouth, and that's usually when they snore. You remember us covering that? Okay. People are often floored when I tell them that they clench or grind their teeth, and they'll say 2 things. No, I don't. Nobody's ever told me I do. Or, my husband doesn't know that I do. Or my wife doesn't say that. Now, they'll tell me right away about snoring, but they won't tell me about clenching or grinding. And then they'll say, but I've never had anybody tell me that before. Surprise! I can tell you some things today that you maybe haven't heard before, but that's because this field is constantly changing. It's constantly growing, it's learning, and it's taken off like crazy. So let's cover a few things that we covered last week. Okay, so do you remember when I stuck out my tongue and I showed you how it was bald on the side? Bald, remember? That's because my tongue is being forced into an area of my teeth that is it's not supposed to fit into. It's like sticking a rug inside a room where it doesn't have enough room to lay flat. Okay, anybody relate to that? Well, if you do that, another thing that you're going to notice is not only are the fibers where they're pushed up against your couch or your end tables or whatever are causing fibers to rub, but you're going to notice some indentions. Your carpet, when it's stuck out, when you pull it out, it's not going to lay flat anymore. You're going to notice this scalloping. Guess what? If you keep a rug up against a couch like this, and you leave it there for months, when you go and you pull the couch away, that is going to still, it's not going to lay flat. It's going to still stick up, right? So guess what? Your tongue does that too. So stick out your tongue. You can do it right now. Stick out your tongue. Get in the mirror. Do you have little scallops? We call that crenations in the dental world. Do you have little scallops on the side of your tongue? There's another sign that your jaw is not to the size that it's supposed to be. Your tongue is not going to grow too big. Your jaw epigenetically didn't grow as big as it needed to. I'm going to cover that in the future. That's a future topic, so come back for more. Let's talk about whether or not you have recession. Okay, dental hygienist, always measuring recession, always talking about recession. We used to fault that for toothbrush abrasion. There's no such thing. In the dental world, I was taught that in hygiene school, and your dentist was probably taught it when he was in dental school. But guess what? There's no such thing. Do you remember when hard and, even medium brushes were on the market? And they're all gone now? You can get soft. You can get extra soft, sensitive. You can get all those, but you can't get a hard brush anymore. They accused that recession of that. But they also accused, how many of you have got some recession? But then when you look at your tooth, okay, so what is recession? Gum that used to entirely cover your root has sunk down. right? Now you have root surface showing. Sometimes that gets really sensitive. Wah! You know, and I have people go, you know, that's sensitive. But guess what? Sometimes it's not. And I have some of you that look like, you know, when you chop with an axe on a tree and it gets that little triangle, you know what I'm talking about? They accused that from brushing too hard. That was your horizontal motion back and forth, and you brushed a triangle into your tooth structure. Let's measure the tensile strength of nylon, which is what your toothbrush bristles are made out of, and of cementum, which is what your root is made out of. It's not happening. It's not going to happen. Guess what? Let's think about a fence post, okay? Visualize a fence post. Let's visualize that it's a fence post that has cement down below the ground that you can't see. So it has cement, then it has an area up above it that is, dirt. So cement, dirt, and this post is all the way down, sticking out. Okay. Grab that fence post at the top. I don't care if you even take two hands. And start trying to rock that back and forth. What's the first thing you're going to see? You're going to see the dirt start to disrupt around the base of that. It may take a while, i.e. recession doesn't usually occur in young people. Not in youth usually. You're in your 20s. Your hygienist says you have recession. You've been rocking this back and forth. Guess what? The dirt gets messed up. Now, let's go a little bit further in your age, and you have these abfractions, or those triangles that look like that you have played timber with your tooth. Okay. You know what that is? That is, now that dirt no longer has any support whatsoever, and you're still flexing on this, and the more you flex on this fence post, the more it can move back and forth. What's going to start happening right at the edge of that cement? Are you going to start to splinter that fence post off? I mean, if you had enough strength, you could splinter the fence post right where that cement is. Okay. That is, and you'll notice that triangle is never in your enamel, in the top part of your tooth. It is in the root surface. Enamel is much, much, much harder than root. That's why it takes diamond to cut it. But root surfaces are much softer. So if you flex it long enough, you can literally begin to shear cementum right off your tooth. It's not anything that you're going to go, oh, what was that? It's not going to be that. But it's going to be a shearing that occurs. And you have a triangle now. So you don't think you clench or grind? Do you have recession? Do you have abfractions, or those little triangular type areas? Do you have that scalloped border of your tongue? Oh, I got one more thing. How many of you have something called tori? Has your dentist or dental hygienist talked to you about tori? It's extra bone. Do you have that? Extra bone is right in here. It can be out here. It can also be up in your palate. How many of you have extra bone? And when you take x-rays, it's like, oh, that hurts the bottom of my mouth. Oh, it's because you have extra bone. Men can submit up to 600 pounds of pressure with their jaws. Women, 1,000. I really believe that's because of childbearing. So you can submit that much pressure. What happens when you're like this all the time? Crunch, crunch, clench, grind, clench, grind, clench, grind, clench, grind. Your jaw, your body says, ooh, I need reinforcement. I need to build up some bone. They are submitting so much pressure. If this gets weak enough, it will fracture. So you build up extra bone. Oh, so do you have tori? Do you have recession? Do you have some abfractions? Do you have any of those things? Do you have a scalloped tongue? I think you might be clenching or grinding and you don't know. Do you remember why we clench or grind? It's to put that jaw in the most posterior upright position so you can open your airway. Oh, I hope you're taking a list and an inventory. I'll see you next week for Found Out Friday.